Hey, Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast with my co-host Evan Dammarell. On today's show, Collin Sexton in segment 1, what he had to say in his exit interview, Caris LeVert in segment 2, him talking about a contract extension, and what other notes came and went from Cavs exit interviews. That's all coming up today on today's episode. All right, the music you heard on the way in, at least in audio form, is Astro Radio. Please check them out on Spotify or Apple Music if you haven't already. I'm Chris Manning here covering the NBA for places like Diamond, Uproxx, and SB for the Sword. My co-host, Evan Dammarell, is at places like Faecbook's Right on Euclid and Fear the Sword as well. Evan, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing much. I was trying to do sword motions, but not a whole lot. I won't go into the deets, but I had an eventful Easter Sunday. You know about it. Those who are in the know about it, and that's all that matters. But hopefully everyone's happy, healthy, and good for them, I guess. But how are you doing, man? Did you meet God this weekend? Did you go to church for Sunday? Or did you say, the zombie is risen, now the bunny gives us eggs?
Just hanging, man. I am just hanging and
I made really inappropriate jokes about Easter that I can't repeat on the show. But a friend of the pod, Joe Kohler, was in mass, and I sent one to him, and he laughed really hard.
Yeah, it is. We're doing fun stuff here. Again, today's show, first episode, Collin Sexton, second segment, Caris LeVert, segment 3, other Cavs meet availability things. I want to start with Collin Sexton. So
sure.
This is the first time we'd really heard from him in a substantial way. He obviously done a bunch of interviews around All-Star.
Yeah, he did All-Stars and like promotional stuff. But that was under the sphere of like a marketing team. So there's limitations there, obviously. This is the first time we've heard from him like team-wise since his injury.
Yes. So where we are, and we look at what he had to say. It wasn't like super. These things matter, but they're also just sort of like We have.
There wasn't a lot of substance. There wasn't a lot of substance to it.
I think Collin's had more than Caris's in that sense. But I want to play a clip from what Collin had to say. This is what he had to say about wanting to be back, and as he's obviously headed to restricted free agency.
The organization, love my teammates, and whatever happens, I know that Cleveland was really good to me, and I know this is the place that helped me get to where I am today. And I know I want to continue to be a part of this winning culture and be a part of this culture. I feel like me just being able to be the start of it helped us get to where we are yesterday and where we are right now in the present. So I love Cleveland. I want to be here. So that's yeah.
So Collin also talked a lot about how he feels like he's going to get back to where he was and feeling like he can help Cleveland take that next step, take the next step to actually making the playoffs, making a playoff run, all that stuff. He provided an update on his knee as well, saying he's, quote, getting there, but there's no timetable for him to actually get cleared for 5-on-5, all that stuff. We did see him pregame before the Cavs played the Hawks last week, working out before the game, and then before he went back and changed and was in on the sidelines in street clothes, he was very noticeably high-fiving his teammates, being very amped up at the start of the game.
Clenched up, as I tweeted, I know.
A very weird word choice on your part.
Bro, my brain was so fried that day.
It usually is,
IDC.
Buddy. But yeah, according to the write-up...
It's the vape pen, man. I gotta quit it. But go ahead.
Okay. And the write-up then from Chris Frieder as well indicates that he's going through some testing to see where he's actually at. So, Evan, I want to ask you, what did you make of what Collin had to say? What kind of stood out to you from what he had to say in the first time we've really heard from him in that setting in a long time?
Well, overall, this isn't even just what he said. I feel like Collin was more or less the missing piece for this Cavs team to make a playoff push this year. There were games that they needed him. I think Caris LeVert was a bit of a dud, but I wrote in Right Down Euclid today. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt of an offseason to fully get healthy and a training camp to get acclimated in Cleveland's system as well, instead of having to learn on the fly like he has. But I think he's still saying all the right things. This is the same stuff he said back when he didn't agree to a contract extension with the Cavs, where he was obviously disappointed in that moment, but he knows the team wants him, and the team knows he wants to be here. And I think the feeling is, I wrote about this for Right Down Euclid, like I've been heard, like the feeling is mutual. The Cavs want to keep Collin. Like they tapped him as a cultural leader. They tap him as a key piece for this team. They talk about him a lot. They keep him included in on a lot of things. I think another noteworthy thing is during the playoffs and when he was back with the team leading into the play-in as well. He was a voice in the huddle. He was a voice in shoot-around. He was a voice in practice and film study. Like, he would give his thoughts. He would give his input to JB, the coaches as well. So, like, clearly he's still part of the Cavs ecosystem. Like, obviously, you want to keep him involved with that while he's recovering. But at the same time, I think there's some certain things you're like, okay, I think they wouldn't be doing this stuff if they didn't plan on keeping him.
So look, we will see where I think this goes. This is obviously, I think, the big thing of the summer. This is the as much
for
as
the Cavs, yeah.
That's I'm saying specifically for the Cavs. I think
what the Jazz are going to do is going to fascinate me. So
yeah, but in terms of like our purview here on the aptly named Locked On Cavs podcast, I think Darius's extension feels to me more of I have a clear idea of what that is going to be. Collin's extension,
it is inevitable.
What Collin's contract situation is a little bit less clear to me. That is just because he's coming off an injury, because it is going into restricted free agency. It's because even if I think the agency switch for him should help him to some degree in terms of his odds of staying in Cleveland, just based on the public posturing we've seen, based on, I think, just how things have kind of gone, it seems like, and also just like him being around as much as him doing exit interviews heading into free agency was sort of notable, even though there's like a league thing where like you have to do media like once, in a calendar year if you've been injured. That's just a little fun thing to remember.
Chris shared that nugget with a tenured beat writer at the last game of the season.
Who did know that? Who did
know that?
Yeah.
But I wonder if Chris mentioning that maybe sparked that.
Yeah, well,
because said beat writer went downstairs to ask about the exit interviews.
Yeah. So, it's hard to put a ton of stock into this in terms of like it leading to direct things. Where this is going to be a thing that we don't know where this goes. But I think it is more likely than not that Collin Sexton is on the Cavs next year. And like I think his assessment in terms of like, hey, I helped get this started. I helped get us moving forward in a positive direction, because he was the bright spot for this Cavs team for a long stretch of time. This is a guy that he's drafted right after LeBron is on his way out after the last finals. All that.
He's
stuff.
The pick that came in when Kyrie left.
Yes, this is a guy that will help them win basketball games next year, and I think him being around more, all that stuff, I think is a sign of where this is sort of headed. And look, if we're talking about guys that if I were going to rank, like what comfort I would feel with extensions for guys currently on the team, he's number 2 to me behind Darius Garland. Darius is 1 in terms of guys that are eligible.
Bold.
Well, in terms of eligibility,
okay.
Yeah, because like Evan Mobley give him the max now, like he's going to deserve it. But like in terms of guys that are eligible, it's for me, it's Darius is 1, Collins 2, and then below that it's you could convince me of a lot of
re-signing Rondo or Ed Davis.
Caris LeVert, who we're going to talk about the next segment's extension eligible.
I know
Kevin Love is extension eligible. Like
he is, but there is a caveat to that. The Cavs can't sign him to like some like piddly extension. They have to sign him to produce something comparable to what he's making now.
And guess what? That ain't happening, brother.
Sorry, Alona. But can I get my thoughts just real quick on Collin's situation?
Yeah. Well,
I agree with you. He should come. He should come back.
Keep some of the bullets in the chamber, because we're gonna have a lot of Collin Sexton time to talk.
Oh, we are. But just off the outset, yes, the Cavs should sign him to an extension. I'm still surprised that they didn't agree to one last offseason before the season started.
I am not, but we'll save that for a later episode.
Okay. But at the same time, I think it's unfortunate if you're Cleveland, because you don't have that luxury of him playing this season to kind of evaluate truly what you have, especially with like this winning structure and you have your established 3 stars. Like, where does he fit in the grand scheme? So you're rolling the dice a little bit because of his health as well. He says he's going to be 100%, but I need to see it to feel comfortable with that, because I can say I took my physical therapy seriously when I was a kid and my knee's fine now, but it's not if you watch me run more than 3 miles. I start to cramp or my knee starts to hurt. So it is what it is. So that's just where I'm at. I just think the Cavs, if they had that luxury to evaluate Collin further, they would, but it'd be remiss of them not to sign him to an extension. That's just like my overarching view. We can get into the brass tacks, talk about it. Maybe if there's like hype season footage dropping this summer of him like cooking kids in a park or something, we'll break that down. But Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's here still. So
yes. All right. After the break, we're going to talk about Caris LeVert, what he had to say about his own possible extension and everything. But Evan, you want to tell everyone first about our friends at Athletic Greens.
Well, the ad reads noted to you, so just kidding. Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens, a product I literally use every day. I bought a subscription. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted to take control of my health, and with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things you need. I'm literally de-aging. It's been a shaky ass year still, but I do not have gray in my beard, as Ye would say. But it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, all while still tasting good. It also supports better sleep quality and recovery, mental clarity, and alertness. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Athletic Greens is cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss, Michael Gervais, and Joe Rogan. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate nutritional insurance.
Also want to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar, the best tasting protein bars out there. All Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. Yes, they're puffs included. Look, if you go to built.com and use the promo code LOCK15, you can save on all of the great Built Bars out there. They have mint brownie, coconut almond, and a whole bunch more. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, and most importantly, 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. You can't really beat Built Bars. And they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy later. I don't know how, but they pull it off literally every single time. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, the promo code is LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Evan, so Caris LeVert in his segment notes that, number one, I think he feels as if he is going to get better, contribute more to the Cavs when he gets more time, doesn't have the injury stuff, and fingers crossed on that not being a thing with him. So he also talked very sort of briefly when asked about a contract extension. It's not the most substantial quote about this, but here's what he had to say when asked about maybe signing about wanting to maybe get a contract extension this summer, which he is now eligible for heading into the last year of his contract.
Where I want to be. They know that, the front office knows that, my teammates know that. So I don't know, what's going to happen with that contract.
So it's not a lock to me that this happens. And I think for me, it could be a little much based on the number and the rules regarding that. I don't think we've seen anything the last few months that really justifies a lucrative extension for Caris. I get it for him 100%. Secure the bag at all times. That is your job. Don't think twice about it. But where are you at on this and maybe this being and everything Caris had to say in regard to injuries and the extension?
I wrote about this as well for Write Down Euclid today, but I think if you're the Cavs, you want to give Caris LeVert the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to throw the bathwater out with the baby. Let me pull up the stats, but the Cavs have kind of played their hand a little bit to say that they want the starting five to be Garland, LeVert, Markkanen, Mobley, Allen, at least for this season. We'll see what's going on next year as well. But they really wanted that to take off, and you didn't actually get to see that until the final game of the season when they lost to the Hawks. But they had an offensive rating of 119.6 and a defensive rating of 102.2. And it's a very small sample size because they only played 24 minutes.
Where I want to be.
Yeah, I know that's where you want to be, Caris. Thanks for sharing again. He guest on the pod featuring Caris LeVert, but the Cavs shot 53.8 from the field and 41.2% from three. Granted, they were just really hot in the first half and it really dipped in the second, so it's a weird sample size. But I think it's something the Cavs should explore further. And I think I'm just of the stance where, hey, if he's healthy, if he fits in, talk about an extension then. I know there's a deadline that the Cavs have to agree to, so maybe just like they have like a 5-10 game sample, they can figure it out. But if not, he is making $18.7 million, I believe, next season, and he is a wing that can play defense, provide passing, and can shoot at times when he's healthy. And that can get you some type of value back if you're the Cavs. Like you can try and flip him for assets, or maybe like package him in if you want to make like a deadline trade. If like a disgruntled star says, "Yo, I want to go play for JB Bickerstaff in the Cavs."
Like I think the way the year's gone just hasn't been what you wanted, and I think that
it's like the bottom 10%. Like this most suboptimal return the Cavs could have gotten with Caris LeVert, and it's stuff you can't control though either.
Yeah, but I also question. I don't think there's like a track record on him, even with the injury stuff, of him being much better than like. There's maybe some improvement, but like I don't think some of the things you saw with LeVert are necessarily like out of step with what he actually has been as a player. And I think if you're the Cavs, and I think if you're thinking about what you're doing here, there is. I understand if you feel like you're a small market and you got to spend the money, you have to do some of that stuff and figure it out. I get it, but I also look at this and say there's not a reason to put money along with what you saw, based on what we've seen from LeVert, and kind of going into your future flexibility a little bit. It's not going to like be a huge amount of that, but it will impact your future flexibility a little bit. I think
that's where it
now,
gives me pause, because you got to start committing a lot of money to a lot of the players you've been growing internally. And do you also want to commit money to a guy who's oft injured and has foot problems?
Look, so if he's going to be, and I also just think maybe as he gets a little bit older, he's in his late 20s now. If you, depending on how things go next year, you can probably, depending on keep him, if figures things out, maybe there's a way to kind of bridge the period. I would just look at what he has done and what he was this year, and it doesn't lead me to screams, okay, a contract extension. And I think when this came up in his. When the trade broke and he came here and he came to Cleveland and it was reported by Woods like, hey, they're going to talk about an extension because he's eligible. That was like the alarm going off of like, okay, are they putting the cart before the horse here? Are they getting a little bit ahead of themselves in terms of thinking about this? You need to see how this, I think, works first. I think you need to see this next year with that. And look, there could be a point next year where you also want to, I also think like if you're going to pay Sexton this summer and you kind of have to decide a multi-year thing on that for him, unless he's willing to sign the qualifying, which I doubt he is and he shouldn't. I think you look at this and say, hey, how do him and Sexton fit in the same team? And how does that sort of work when you have, how would that sort of work? Are they redundant in some ways? Are they, do they kind of nullify each other in some ways? How do they work together defensively? You have a lot of questions about those two together as a partnership, as much you still do about Caris and Darius, that we really need to figure out, I think, before we can say, okay, this would make sense for X amount of money and whatnot. So I would say, like, I think his camp should broach the subject and be like, hey, like, pay our guy, like he wants to be in Ohio, all that stuff, to give that sales pitch.
Columbus's own, baby.
It's not a sales pitch I think is particularly compelling right now.
No, it's not. I think you want to say, hey, we would like to sign you to an extension at this time, but we need a little bit more of an evaluation period, because he was also out for a month, technically, at one point as well, just with all the issues he was dealing with. So maybe it lights a fire under him too. Maybe contract year Caris LeVert's a force to be reckoned with, but change your jersey number from 3 and try and go ball out for the Cavs, my guy. Maybe you'll be in Ohio for long term. That'd be nice, but I'm leery if I'm the Cavs. Like his camp should do everything to get them to sign him to an extension now, but I'd be hesitant to do that if I was Cleveland.
I am pro the jersey number change. Let's just
3 is just, it should be like taken out of circulation, man. That number is actually fucking cursed in the modern era, at least. Yeah.
Let's get some new energy with that number.
Actually, not the modern era. It's since Jordan made that shot over Elo. It's been cursed.
It's cursed. All right. After the break, we're going to talk about some other things that were said immediately, including what Kevin Love said about maybe doing karaoke as a team in Nashville. Are the Cavs a bachelorette party? We're going to dive into that after the break. But first, going to tell everyone about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including all the ongoing NBA playoff games and all the lines on those podcast interviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. That includes the various NBA awards, which several Cavs right now are still in the running winning. They are finalists for Rookie of the Year with Evan Mobley. He's currently the betting favorite over Scottie Barnes and Cade Cunningham. Kevin Love is a significant underdog, which we'll talk about on tomorrow's show, in the Sixth Man of the Year voting. And there's more than one. Darius Garland, most improved underdog, as well behind Ja Morant. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Check everything out there. There's tons of great odds. You're going to find everything you could want at betonline.net. And then remember, that's BetOnline. That's where the game starts. All right, back here on the Locked On Cavs podcast. I'm Chris. That's Evan. Evan, I thought the one other thing of note was just interesting how much everyone seemingly kind of talked about staying together, and like Kevin Love of all people, just considering the trajectory of good vibes guy Kevin Love was talking about organizing get the guys getting together.
The most basic white girl vacation ever for the team. I loved every second of it. And like Nashville's not for me, but if you have fun there, good for you.
Not Nash. I wonder if they're more into like the Las Vegas vibe that the at Summer League hangouts than that.
It's got the Vegas vibes. It's called.
I'm saying specifically, do the guy with the guys much rather like go to Vegas? Where does also I wonder like now I just like wondering like what does Evan Mobley think of like net? What would Evan Mobley?
That's what I wish Kevin mentioned, because he wants Isaac Okoro apparently is like all in to do karaoke when they go to Nashville. I want to be the fly on the wall.
Okoro just does like Little Baby, or he's like, I'm actually just gonna
no. Kevin's stipulation was it has to be music that they don't usually listen to, so it probably means
Isaac
like country
Okoro
music.
sing Casey Musgraves challenge. Let's go.
Sing it at her bar for all you care, but no, I want to see Evan Mobley perform a song. Like I really do. I think that'd be so funny.
Just would be some stuff there. But look, I think the tone of these was like overall pretty positive. Was it kind of the other part about this, right? Like this is obviously mixed with a tinge of disappointment considering how the season ended. I think this is it's not particularly different than what has been said in previous days or what some guys had said after the Hawks loss, but it was part of the story here coming out on this day is that like the tone was, I think, more positive about the season and how far this group kind of came more than anything else. Did anything else of note kind of stand out to you as you heard from not everyone, but a bunch of the guys?
I think it was pretty positive overall. The players we didn't hear from were Mobley, Garland, and Markkanen. And Allen, I believe. No, Mobley's. I don't remember. Either way, hearing from Lamar Stevens, kind of hearing what the Cavs like thought process is for him was interesting, because he mentioned like on the way out, like, hey, what did JB and maybe Kobe say to you before you just kind of leave for a little bit and maybe just go like recharge? And he's just like, oh, they have like an overall vision for me, and it kind of lines up with what I'm trying to do, so I'm just going to go keep working on that. So I asked him, like, what do you want to do? He's like, oh, I want to be good in DHOs. I want to be a good passer, a good defender. Like, he listed a lot of the things that maybe like a player like Bruce Brown, players who can't shoot very well necessarily, but who can impact the game in so many different ways. Like, I think you're asking a lot of Lamar Stevens. I don't think he's going to be able to achieve all of that, but knowing that the Cavs are kind of just saying like, okay, we have this guy who's kind of a non-shooter who's a tweener 3-4. We want him to transition more to the 3. And we want him to work on like X, Y, and Z in his game to kind of make him more impactful on both ends is kind of encouraging. And now I want to know what they said to Okoro, or what they told Mobley or Markkanen or anyone, like, hey, these are our plans with you and this is what we need you to work on this summer. Like, that's what I'm just curious about.
Yeah, I mean, Okoro was pretty blunt about his offense and like that being the thing.
He's like, I'm not good offensively. He's like, I'm not great offensively. I think he's aware of the fact that teams disrespect him on the perimeter. Like, they don't expect anything.
Yeah, I
also like the fact that he's just like, I know I'm good at defense. I need to work on my offense. I was like, you know what? Speak your shit, King.
He strikes me as like a very self-aware guy.
Very funny. Apparently, they talked about Kevin Love talked about the group chat a little bit. Apparently, like it strikes me that Isaac's like the memer of the group.
So he's
like me. He drops the D's nuts every now and then, or like Yo Mama, or such
uncomfortable stuff.
Or Bofa.
Look, I'll be curious to kind of see what Kobe Altman speaking on Tuesday. I'll be curious to see what he has to say about some of this. I mean, I think he'll toe the line because he kind of speaks in like corporate finance bro language a lot of the time. That is like avoiding saying anything that actually says anything. But like, I look at this as just such a fascinating summer, and like I wonder how they will ultimately approach this. Evan, this leads me to the last thing I just want to hit on today, which is just that I think it's worth reminding people too, as we end the season, and like we cover the Hawks game, we talked about this a little bit, but just to put a pin on this, I think it's worth remembering that it's very hard to win in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
Look at the Wolves. Look at what the Wolves have had with Cat and the various coaches, and then getting Ant-Man and like all of it.
So good.
But then it's
so
like
good.
it's like it just how long it took them to be like a competent franchise in a lot of ways.
Well, the Grizzlies too. Like they went from like a team who would just grind people defensively into dust and were shit offensively. And now they're like one of those balanced teams in the league.
Yeah, they kind of like did it in like this very transition from one era to another, like a very optimized way. The Wolves was kind of more Cavsy in that it was a little.
Oh, the Wolves are
Lest we forget,
mess.
Evan, the Wolves had a lead of their basketball operations leave the organization due to like infidelity.
Yeah, and they're a mess. Like this season's a win for them.
Yeah.
And the Chris Finch hiring was like a mess too, but like at least they're not the Kings, so that's all you can say. Like, that's the bottom.
That's a low bar. My point here is that like this can take time. This is complicated. This is hard. And I think as you're looking at this season, the Cavs just had like their biggest like net rating jump like ever. Like it's pretty significant in terms of how much better they were this season over the year before. This is not going to be like a linear process, and like there's some of the moves they make in the summer, some of the things we'll talk about on the show. None of this is ever guaranteed to work. I think that is just worth keeping in mind that this is very difficult stuff. They have done like the hard leap in terms of getting the important talent in the building and like having the guys you build with. The next step is also very hard, and I think that is worth keeping in mind as we look forward here.
No, it absolutely is. And
it takes a lot of luck. It's a lot of luck, man. More than I think we acknowledge.
Yeah, I think Cavs fans are maybe a little spoiled just because they made the finals 4 years in a row with the greatest player of my lifetime on the. I mean, I guess I was alive when MJ played too, but the greatest player of my cognitive memories and LeBron James on the floor. So it's tricky. It's basketball. Team building is more of an art than a science, and sometimes people don't realize that. And sometimes you have to paint with broad strokes, and sometimes you have to go in and really pencil in the details and really lay things out. And I think the Cavs are a little bit in that detailing phase. Like they have something good here, and these next few months are going to be fascinating to break down and kind of wrap your head fully around, because the Cavs are also a very aggressive team, so they can make a move completely out of left field that may not make sense in the moment, but could be beneficial to them because Kobe Altman has a pretty good track record making like moves on the margins to improve the overall depth of his rosters. Like yes. Like it started with LeBron and he continues to do it now, like flipping veterans for assets and then turning those assets into something else.
Yes. All right. That's going to be it for today's episode. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about Cavs awards. So the Cavs have some finals for awards. We're going to talk about the candidacy for Darius Garland for MIP, Evan Mobley for Rookie of the Year, Kevin Love for Sixth Man of the Year. That's coming up tomorrow. Everyone be well. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk tomorrow. If you want a great second listen from the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts are going to take you deep into the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Be sure to check that out. And check out Locked On NBA Draft, too. The Cavs have a draft pick now. You're probably going to want to pay attention.